guys, I'm Tinashe.
And I'm Wazani.
We bees the cheaters, and this is Marriage Sucks. What are we talking about today, babe?
Today we are talking about setting boundaries with family actually, let me say it in a nicer way. We're talking about maintaining healthy relationships with family and with in-laws.
Why do you want to set boundaries with my family? You don't like them?
That's why I said maintaining healthy relationships.
Yeah, but the first time you said boundaries. The first time you said boundaries.
Temporal psychosis.
I'm calling my mom after this. And telling you.
Wazani wants to set some boundaries with you.
Okay, hit me.
Okay, Tinashe. So we're talking about this today because the common issues that we see with in-laws, and I'm not talking about you and I, but I'm generalizing here as married couples, sometimes is where there are a lack of boundaries, where sometimes people can feel like maybe family and in-laws are too involved in what we're doing. They are maybe controlling, maybe they are judgmental of the way we are doing life as a couple, or generally they are failing to detach from us as their children.
Not my family.
Right.
They're God-fearing people.
So, what's your experience with so far with your relationships with your in-laws?
My in-laws have been really good. It helped that for the first year and a half of our marriage, we were 2 hours away.
2.5 hours
away. 2.5 hours away. So
we didn't see nobody.
They couldn't show up just like that. But generally, I've got a great relationship with almost everyone in your family. I think I really speak to everyone. So they've been really good, very welcoming, and very warm towards me. And I hope that has been the same experience for you with my wow.
I'm kidding.
Wow. Wow.
No, I'm kidding. I always say this. I feel so blessed to have married into a good family, honestly. I've got zero complaints.
Preach.
We do have a healthy relationship. And I think that also takes a lot of work in terms of communicating and making sure that you understand what the other person's like. So I feel like we're in a very healthy place for me personally. But I also want to say that we've also put in the work to be able to be in a healthy place.
You have a really good relationship with my mom. Like you have a relationship which is separate or independent of me. How have you cultivated that?
Honestly, I think it's more to do with her and her personality than anything. Personally, I was told by a lot of people before I got into marriage that, don't get too pally with your in-laws, because things will go wrong. So I won't lie. I had that at the back of my mind, but I think the way your mom really embraced me, she was like, I from the word go, when we were still dating, even she said to me, I don't want a daughter-in-law. I've always wanted a daughter. So you're my daughter. And I think it was just her demeanor that really helped our relationship where we are. But having said that, like I said, we've both had to work because she's from somewhere completely different. I came from somewhere completely different. My relationship with my mom, or how I relate to my mom, is different to how I relate to her. So we have both had to put in the work. I remember one time when she said to me, I can't remember what it was that we were discussing about, and we had a little bit of a moment. And she said to me, do not be afraid to say, Mom, this XYZ doesn't work for me. Do not be afraid to do that. It will not hurt our relationship. It will only build it up. And I think it's that work that you both have to put in both ends to make sure that it functions. Wow. So what role, in your understanding, does family play in a marriage?
they do say that when you get married, you're not only marrying that individual, but their family. And it's important as well for the family to understand their role in your marriage and play their position and not try to overstep or try to play a different post to different position, but know where you stand, my friend.
Okay, so we say they need to understand their position. So how do they understand their position? So as a perfect example, Wozani and her mother are very close. Wozani's mother can step into Wozani's house any day, anytime, change things. Tinashe and his mother are close. Tinashe's mother, when Tinashe was single, could come into Tinashe's house, do the dishes, do everything, do Tinashe's laundry, etc. And then all of a sudden there is Wozani. So who does the how does the positioning go into play? Do you say to the parents, don't do this? I want to see how you navigate that.
So it starts with the two people. It starts with you and I, right? If you vocalize that it's making you uncomfortable, right? I have to take that on board. And onus is on me now to have that conversation with my mom, with my dad, and set those boundaries. It shouldn't be you. It should never be you addressing my parents in that, because it will reflect negatively on you. But I'm their child, and I can have that conversation with them. They will not love me any less. And I also have to be careful with how I frame my words. I cannot make it seem like this is coming from you. I have to then sit them down and say, Mom, Dad, our relationship is great and I love it, but I think you also may want to consider that I am now in my own house, and I would like for you to just give me a call whenever you come down. You are more than welcome to come, but just give me a call whenever you want to come down, to ensure that we are ready for you. There is food, there is that. You just kind of spice it up,
One thing we did not do, but maybe we didn't need it. But do you think it's important, instead of waiting for like a situation to happen, to then say, okay, this is how we want to move? Is it beneficial, maybe from the word go, for you and I to sit down and say, Tinashe, this is the way we want to run our household. If we encounter something like this moving forward, this is how I would like you to deal with it. This is how you would like me to deal with it. This is how we'll deal with it as a couple. I feel like that perhaps can prevent a lot, like setting expectations for ourselves initially. So a perfect example is, as a woman, when I get married, it almost seems like a forsaken all. So you, as a woman, you leave your mother's house. So let's go back to traditionally. These days things are different. But traditionally, as a woman, you left your mother's house and you went to the man.
Yeah.
When you go to the man, you take your last name off. You take the man's last name. Any children that you bear, they have the man's last name, as a perfect example. So my expectation as a woman, because I've left my mom, my dad, who were my protection and my covering. My expectation when I've left my protection and my covering at my mother's house is to then come under you, and you be my protection and my covering, and make sure that, for example, as a child, parents provide for you. They provide for all your needs, your emotional needs, your physical needs, your whatever, spiritual needs even, because they pray for you. So I feel like that should continue to go into play when a woman gets married to a man. So you cover, my expectation is that you continue to cover me and to protect me and to be, that person that is overall protecting me. Do you agree?
I totally agree. I very much agree, though she didn't take my last name.
I was Annie Cheetah.
Hey, let's not go there. You always Annie Cheetah. But anyway, I 150% agree.
What did I tell you about airing my business? I told you about airing my business last time.
I'm going to get in trouble. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Essentially, the role of a man when they get married, right, is to become that protector, that covering for the woman, right? That's why the wife submits to the man, and the man, as the man submits to Christ. So Christ become the covering for the man, and essentially for the wife and the kids and the entire household, and the man becomes the covering for the wife. So it becomes then my role to protect you, to cover you, to ensure that anyone who's throwing any javelins, I'm there to quench those fiery darts that are coming your way. That is my job. I become that shield, right? And also, you mentioned having that initial conversation. Now, I think it's very important as well to have that initial conversation and set expectations. But sometimes you just don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know whether my mom is going to be overbearing or not until she becomes overbearing. And you're like, come on, Tinashe, this gotta stop. Does it make sense? So it is great to set those expectations to begin with of what you can think of what you can discuss. But that channel of communication must always remain open, right? And allow people to then come back and say, you know what, I'm really not feeling this. I think this needs to change because it's affecting my well-being and my mental health. I think that's very key and very important.
Cool. There is a verse in the Bible that says, honor your father and your mother. We know how the rest of it goes.
Yeah.
What does honoring your father and your mother mean? And if father and mother have a certain vision for our family that doesn't align to the vision that we have ourselves for our family, how do you navigate the aspect of us remaining as, you know, a marriage, a separate entity, and then us honoring them as parents?
So you don't dishonor your parents by becoming an adult, by having your own line of thinking, by having your own vision. That's not dishonoring your parents. It's okay to disagree with your parents when you are an adult. It's just how you disagree which determines whether you're honoring or dishonoring them. Does it make sense? So if your parents have a certain view for how you should raise your family or how you should be with your wife or your husband, that's absolutely fine, and they are entitled to that. But you are also entitled to have your own vision and your own desires and your own ways of doing things. And that's very important to understand and to realize, right? You can sit them down and say, Mom, Dad, I appreciate what you are telling me, and I appreciate how you are guiding me. But for me and my household, I thought, I thought this is what we have decided to do as a family, and this is how we are going to either raise our children, this is how we are going to run our household and everything else. That's not to mean that I am dishonoring you. That's not to mean that your opinion doesn't matter to me. It very much matters. But you also have to realize that you raised a man, a woman, an adult who you taught to have their own a mindset and their own ideas and their own ways. And I think every parent ultimately, that's what they want for their child to grow up and be independent, if that makes sense. So I don't think it's dishonoring them. What do you think?
From the way I see it, the Bible says honor your father and mother. But I feel like honoring does not mean obeying when you're an adult. So honor your father and mother doesn't mean obey your father and mother. When I'm a child and I'm under their roof and I'm under, oh yes, 100%, you obey. If the curfew is 9 a.m., 9 a.m. you're under the roof.
And to add as well, I think it's important to say that not obeying them is not necessarily disobeying them. Yeah.
You're throwing a spanner in the works.
Sorry.
No. I think you've literally just hit it. Yeah, it doesn't mean honoring does not mean obeying. And if you're taking a different path, that's totally okay. As long as, like you mentioned, you're doing it in the right manner. So I wanted to ask you something. So the Bible says, I keep referring to the Bible.
Bible bashers.
The Bible says a man shall leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife. So I wanted to understand from your perspective what that transition was like for you. And I tell you why. Because for me as a woman, I feel like women are prepared a lot for marriage. They're prepared a lot for that transition. So what I do in my mother's house is probably not any different from what I do from in my own marital household.
Yeah.
So I wanted to hear from you what that transition was like physically and then also emotionally.
That's a really good question. The transition for me, so obviously I wasn't coming straight from my mother's house because I had lived by myself.
You're coming from the wilderness.
For a number of years, and I think it is important that if you are a certain age as a man, you and are able to, right? You do stay by yourself before you get married, because that wilderness stage is extremely important to prepare you for what is to come. First of all, the wilderness stage is when you are living by yourself and you are learning to truly fend for yourself and be truly and wholly responsible for your well-being. That's cooking for yourself, feeding yourself, ensuring that your bills are paid and everything else. That allows you to come into your marital home and be ready and prepared to take over the responsibility of looking after somebody's daughter. All right. So I think the wilderness stage is very important. In regards to the transition for myself, right, it was a bit of a sticky one still, right, in the sense that you come from a place where you were totally independent. You were enjoying your life. You did what you wanted, how you wanted to do it, when you wanted to do it, right? And then you come into this place where you suddenly have to be accountable to someone and also be responsible for someone, right? And it's not always easy to make that transition because nothing can fully prepare you for that. And I was never really told what to expect, right? And especially coming from a single parent home, I never really had a picture of what it was like to
what
be.
a man should be like.
Absolutely. Well, not what a man should be like, but what a house with a mom and a dad looked like, right? So me coming into it, I still wanted to hold on to a piece of myself.
Piece of the wilderness.
Exactly, a piece of myself, being out there, and also have this new me. But I couldn't reconcile the two. Something had to give. At all times, right? Whenever you come to a new thing and a new season, which requires a new you have to learn to let go of your old self.
Do you feel like I'm a nagging wife?
No, but the first few months I felt like you were taking all my oxygen.
I think it's both ways. That's because you're coming from your own personal space into like shared space. Like there's nothing personal about marriage. I felt it as well, but I don't think I felt it to the extent you felt.
Okay, how was it for you? Do you feel like you came with your mother's house to our house, or you left your mother's house?
I feel like I left my mother's house. I didn't live with my mother when we got married. I'd moved out of my mother's house. but I felt like I was bringing my mother's house, because whatever things I had been taught in my mother's house were the things that I was applying in our marriage. But I think the aspect that was different for me was also the personal space and the, oh, I need to do something with my, like, I want to plan a holiday with my friends, and then I have to check with Tinashe and Tinashe's diary, and we have to check if our finances can accommodate for that and all of that. Whereas when I was single, I'll be like, yeah, any day, any time.
You know what was a big shocker for me?
Yeah.
When I'm having a bath and suddenly somebody wants to pee up in it.
We had one toilet in the
Yeah, we
house.
did. At that time, yeah.
So-
Yeah.
What
We
do you want me
did.
to do?
Like, rah.
I feel like we have touched on the role of family and in-laws in a marriage, and that's good. So Tinashe, marriage sucks if?
Marriage sucks if you do not set the relevant boundaries with your family, not with your in-laws, but with your family, right? You need to set those boundaries with your family from the get-go. And also it helps if your in-laws are not cray-cray. Can't be dealing with crazy in-laws, man.
Stop it.
I'm just
Don't
saying.
do that. It helps if your in-laws are not the royal I'm kidding. Anyway, marriage sucks. Marriage sucks if you do not communicate your boundaries, and you also do not make an effort to maintain healthy relationships with your family and with your in-laws. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Please do make sure you like, you comment, you share, you subscribe. You know the drill.
Thank you so much, guys. This could be our last video with myself and Ozani
In the
after
UK.
after her comment about the royal family.
Oh, you're
So
gonna have to cut that comment about the royal family.
no, I'm keeping it in there.